My name is Jesse Sanders. I wrote this before I had done much research on the subject of NDEs. I did not want my perception to be altered by other stories. I shared my story a little over a week ago, and it has been read over 2,000 times, shared on Facebook over 600 times, and has traveled all over the world. I am humbled by emails of people who have personally told me what my story meant to them, and have also connected with others who have had NDEs, including my dad, who I would never have known about his unless I shared mine. It took courage for me to share it so publicly, but it had been the best thing I have ever done. So I thought, why not share to the audience here at Peculiar Stories too? You know those moments in life that really make a difference. Moments which snatch you right out of your induced, hypnotized state of selfish perception. They shake your core, opening your spiritual self to everything beyond. For a second in infinity, you realize the insignificance of everything, except for love. Well, I have a story to share with you. A true story. My story. It is far from easy for me to share this so publicly. As a matter of fact, hardly anyone knows about this most profound experience I went through recently. I kept it to myself for a while, terrified to open up to anyone about it. I needed time to contemplate the meaning and wrap my head around the experience itself. Plus, there is the fear of sharing it with people. What will they think? How will I be judged? Will anyone actually believe me? The response from the few people I have slowly told has given me courage to get past those holdups. Their reactions have reminded me that even a personal experience can have a rippling effect in others' lives. That no matter how hard it is, some stories are meant to be told. I am ready now. I hope you are too. This is my story. Nothing shakes a family quite like illness can. A year ago, some very concerning symptoms started happening to me. For a young, relatively healthy female, I wasn't too worried at first. Until the medical tests kept coming back negative, and my symptoms kept getting worse. My doctors and I started at the bottom and worked our way up the ladder of every possibility, but to no avail. No test revealed a problem, no medication helped, and even minor surgical procedures didn't stop my problems. Stress wouldn't be an adequate word to cover the feelings I had for months and months of not knowing what was wrong with me. My life was flipped upside down, in more ways than one. Not to mention that some of those months included unrelated personal heartbreaks. Things were not easy. I had to be strong and wear a smile as much as I could. Even when my own husband couldn't look me in the eyes at times without tearing up because of the fear of losing me, I still had to be strong. I treasured every simple, happy moment in those long months. Reluctantly, it was proposed that a hysterectomy would be an end to the symptoms. Surgery would also give my surgeon a better look at what may be happening inside me, and possibly some answers. We scheduled the hysterectomy and prepared ourselves for a long but hopeful recovery. I had no fear going into the surgery. It wasn't my first major operation. I knew the risks. I knew there would be pain. I knew it would be difficult not just for me, but for my family. So my total abdominal hysterectomy, I got to keep my ovaries, but one had to be biopsied. And a second aesthetic surgery proceeded like normal in mid-May of this year. I was quite comfortable afterwards, if you can call the feeling of being hit by a bus comfortable. When I was recovering in the hospital, I had a morphine drip that I could push every 30 minutes. My midsection was wrapped, and I had a very sexy drain tube coming out of my stomach. All of this was exactly as I expected it would be, and I maintained my upbeat attitude. When the lab results came back of my uterus and the ovarian biopsy, we were all relieved to hear I was in the clear. Everything seemed fine. I was released after just 2 nights, ready to recover at home and get my health back. Get my life back. But that is not what happened. Just a few hours into being at home, my pain started to drastically increase. Nothing I wasn't prepared for, though. I popped a couple of Percocet and chalked it up to post-surgical pain. I have a high pain tolerance, which has been tested numerous times before. So I just settled into the comfy recliner my husband had moved into our bedroom and tried to sleep it off. Nope. By midnight, I was on the floor of our bedroom in the fetal position, screaming. The pain was crushing. The only way to describe it is as if someone had ripped open my stomach with their fingers, pulled out my organs and intestines, shoved them into a blender, blended them on low power, poured gasoline on them, and then lit them on fire before shoving them back into me. That still doesn't quite describe it, but it's as close as I can get. I would never wish it on anyone or anything. My husband Sawyer rushed me to the emergency room. The physically gut-wrenching pain was so intense that nothing else in the world mattered to me, except ending that pain. At the emergency room, I was seen immediately. Not a good sign. I could barely speak. I was on the verge of passing out, and all I wanted was an IV with a very strong painkiller. I remember them saying my heart rate was 185, my normal is 60, and I had a low-grade fever. I can't remember what my blood pressure was, because I honestly didn't care about anything except the excruciating pain. I was readmitted into the hospital. The CT scans showed that I had a paralytic ileus, a complication from anesthesia, in which my intestines had not woken up and were bloating. On a second look at my scan, it was seen that I also had a belly full of blood. I was bleeding internally. The next few days after that I can barely remember. I was sick, deathly sick. Doctors came in and out, nurses around the clock, medical staff, and visits from only family. Sawyer never left my side. The pain was all that existed to me. I was not allowed to eat or drink in case I needed to be rushed to surgery, and also to help my intestines wake up. I was told to walk around as much as I could. Every step was pain, every movement, even after an injection of my precious painkiller. My doctor talked of surgery to locate the mysterious bleeding site, but another surgeon countered the idea due to my other complication, at least for then. We were at a standstill. I was stable, low, but stable. I was to continue to be closely monitored. I received 2 blood transfusions and tons of antibiotics. My family was fighting back tears when they were around me. My husband was showing strength and empathy beyond expectation. It was the scariest thing that has ever happened to us as a family. Yet through all of it, the only thing I could think of was the pain. I hurt so badly. Pain was my world. Pain that I could not imagine any living thing having to ever experience. I barely slept because I was so uncomfortable. When I did manage to close my eyes for a few minutes at a time, I dreamt only of the pain and fear, usually scaring myself awake. Except for one night. My eyes opened and I was surrounded by white. No walls, no floor, only misty white space. I was standing up straight and tall, a feat that I had been unable to do since the surgery and the pain. The pain. To my utter surprise, it was gone. I was comfortable and warm, calm even, feelings I had long forgotten about. My body wasn't sick anymore. I felt light and smooth. I was wearing a soft, simple white gown. I felt amazing. In the distance, through the mist, I saw him, Anthony. He was sitting on a white bench and waiting for someone. As I approached, he stood and turned to face me. I was so happy to see my long-past friend again. It seemed as if time had stopped, and there was a strange formality about everything. He smiled his famous smile at me and placed his right hand on my left shoulder. No words were spoken between us, but his eyes were locked on my face. That is when I saw it start to appear. Behind Anthony and to my right, a brilliant light. It was small at first, but growing brighter, stronger. It was the most glorious thing I have ever witnessed, radiating colors and feelings of which words could not ever possibly describe. Sparkling hues of golden blues and love. It was brighter than the sun, but didn't hurt my eyes to look directly into it. Heavenly. I could not look away. The feeling I had was similar to a feeling of seeing the person you love after being away from them for too long. That light was pure, unconditional love, and I felt it. It was everything. It was everything that ever was and ever will be. I wanted to be part of it. The urge to follow it, walk towards it, melt into it was overwhelming. I belonged there. It was calling to me, waiting for me. I looked back into Anthony's eyes, his hand still on my shoulder. I was overwhelmed with joy and love. The expression on his face confirmed what I knew. Yes, that was the light, and Anthony was there to walk me into it. He was there to take me home. Suddenly, somehow, I remembered Sawyer. I looked down below my feet to the left. Through the fogginess of the white floor, I could see my husband sleeping on the tiny fold-out couch in the hospital next to my bed. Feet and arms hanging over the sides and fully dressed. I felt a longing towards him. I wanted to go down there and lay next to him, comfort him and tell him everything will be okay. I wanted to be with him. It was as if I had answered an unspoken question without speaking a word myself. I looked back at Anthony, and he smiled once more and squeezed my shoulder lovingly. My decision had been made clear without even a whisper escaping my lips. I wasn't ready to go. My feet became as heavy as cement. I could only stand there and watch as Anthony walked toward that most glorious light, and it engulfed him, leaving me behind. Falling slowly backwards through the white space, the moment faded away from me. I opened my eyes again. The pain. The pain was crippling. My body so weak and frail, there was nothing I could do but endure it. The rhythmic sounds of my IV drip echoing through the room. A reminder of where I was, my hospital bed. To the left was Sawyer, sprawled out on the tiny pull-out couch. The next day and night revolved around my pain, just like all the days before. As the pain would wear off, it was like a countdown to see how much I could handle. Mentally, I would be clawing my way out of my skin, wanting to abandon the suffering to which I had been tied. I was trapped inside my broken body. At the end of every 3 hours, I would be crying, pleading for an end to it, every time. I tried hard to put on a brave face, grit my teeth and bear it. Once the pain was injected into my IV, the metallic taste flooding my mouth, the cycle would start again from the beginning. I know Sawyer wished to trade places with me, but I would never have allowed it, not even theoretically. My body was wearing down. I was a skeleton covered in gray skin with a distended belly full of blood. My eyes glazed and dull, my hair oily. Bruises from IVs covering my arms and multiple needle pricks from blood tests, hollowed cheeks and cracked lips. I was breaking down, fragile. Life is so fragile. The night following my dream was my miraculous turning point. I hated waking Sawyer up every hour to help me get out of my bed so I could use the restroom. I had decided to let him sleep and try to do it on my own, which I proudly accomplished. When I finally settled myself back into my bed, I felt wetness under my legs. Depressed that incontinence was now bestowed upon me, I reached under the sheets to check. I pulled up my hand and was horrified to see blood-soaked fingers. I was sitting in a pool of my own blood. I could literally see it seeping through the sheets, spreading. The next 15 mins were a whirlwind of controlled chaos. Nurses, my husband, my mom, tests and bleeding, so much blood. It was literally pouring out of me like a faucet and clots of it. I believed it was the end for me. This was it. After talking to my doctor and checking my vitals, the nurse informed us that the doctor said this was the blood that had been sitting inside my belly and was being expelled vaginally through the internal stitches. The blood they expected my body would eventually reabsorb was suddenly being released. As long as my vitals remained stable as they had been at least, then I was okay. He would be there to examine me soon. I passed over 2 liters of blood and well over 800 cc's of fist-sized blood clots or larger, which the nurse said looked like my liver. This all happened in under 45 minutes. My room looked like a horror scene. As if by some miracle, my pain was dramatically decreased in that instantaneous moment. I finally had some relief from the agony I had been enduring for almost a week, and only at the price of an unexpected bloodbath. The next 48 hours, my heart rate finally started to drop from the 140 range down into the 90s. My blood pressure improved, my hematocrit had remained stable, and my intestines were waking up. I was finally allowed to start liquids. Campbell's soup juice never tasted so good. I was getting better. 2 nights after the bloodbath, I was discharged from the hospital. My doctor gave me his personal number for me to text him my heart rate and blood pressure stats every few hours. Of course, I was terrified I may have another internal bleed. He made himself available for any concerns and checked on me often. I still had pain, but this pain was the type I was originally prepared to handle. I could finally start my now much extended recovery. 2 weeks after being home, I had another bleeding scare which put me back in the emergency room but stopped mysteriously. For a month after that, I basically stayed in bed and slept. Even now, I am still recovering. My incredible family took care of my children, and my remaining friends checked on me constantly. Then, there was Sawyer. I have no words for what he did for me through all of this. I don't know what I would have done without all of them. For months now, I've kept this memory relatively private, but every day it has been on my mind. Just the sheer beauty of it still leaves me in awe. Prior to my NDE, near-death experience, I had no real knowledge of them. Of course, I had heard of them, like many of us have, but never put much thought into them. To me, they weren't relevant, and I most defiantly never expected anything like this to happen to me personally. It wasn't a pre-existing thought in my head, and nothing my imagination could have ever created. The research I've done since has only confirmed my experience for me. There are amazingly similar experiences and feelings from people all around the world, some who have died, and some who were close to death. There is no doubt in my mind that what happened to me was real. This story is not meant to be preachy. I have always considered myself to have a healthy balance between faith, spirituality, and science. I have not changed my views. Rather, I believe it has solidified what I've always felt in my heart and soul to be true. I've always believed that God is love. There is a greater energy out there that we are all bound to, and I am witness to it. I need no other explanations. What I am left with is a knowing, the existence of a higher power. Any doubt that I may have ever had about an afterlife or heaven has been erased. It exists. I no longer fear death. I fear pain, but not death. Death itself is the most beautiful thing you will ever experience. I have stood at the edge of eternity and had the divine privilege to choose to come back. I made that choice for Sawyer, for love. Even as I type that, I am tearing up. I no longer question the purpose of life. I feel more peaceful than I ever have before. Although pain, selfishness, and brutality will sadly always be part of this world, I know that there is a world of love and light beyond this, a place of peace beyond what our mortal bodies can comprehend, and it is waiting for me and waiting for you. Jesse Sanders. Watch this near-death experience next about a woman who had a mind-bending story with so much insight, you simply don't want to miss it.